Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Airbnb For Dummies, 2nd edition, by Simon He MBA and James Svetec. Narrated by William Sarris. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures and tables present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Limit of liability and disclaimer of warranty. While the publisher and authors have used their best efforts in preparing this work, they make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including, without limitation, any implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales representatives, written sales materials, or promotional statements for this work. The fact that an organization, website, or product is referred to in this work as a citation and/or potential source of further information does not mean that the publisher and authors endorse the information or services the organization, website, or product may provide, or recommendations it may make. This work is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering professional services. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. You should consult with a specialist where appropriate. Further, readers should be aware that websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. Neither the publisher nor authors shall be liable for any loss of profit or any other commercial damages, including but not limited to special, incidental, consequential, or other damages. Introduction. Welcome to the incredible world of Airbnb hosting. Airbnb is one of the fastest growing companies in the world and an incredible opportunity for people all around the world to earn extra income from their unused space. In addition to the extra income, meeting new people from all around the world is one of the many great perks of hosting on Airbnb. When the 2020 pandemic all but shut down travel around the world, many began to question the viability of short-term rentals. Would it ever be profitable again? Not only is the answer a resounding yes, the new normal for travel has created both new opportunities and challenges. Hosts in previously obscure, little-known travel destinations are fully booked and turning tidy profits. Or you may have heard horror stories about hosting on Airbnb, be it unwanted parties or guests trashing a host's house. Circumstances aren't always perfect. When a platform such as Airbnb facilitates more than 500 million guest stays, they're bound to have a few rare instances that are less than ideal. The vast majority of all Airbnb hosts never encounter a single major issue with their guests. The odd coffee cup may break, but if you follow proven strategies, hosting can be rewarding and profitable. About this book. Airbnb For Dummies serves as the perfect roadmap for current and aspiring Airbnb hosts who want to host the right way and optimize their earnings on Airbnb. This book includes everything you need to know in order to get the most out of your hosting and truly enjoy the experience. Becoming a top-performing host on Airbnb isn't easy. However, with the strategies we cover in this book, you have everything you need to make it happen. You can read about everything you need to know about the following. The Airbnb Basics. From how Airbnb works as a platform to what it really means to host your space on Airbnb to setting goals for your specific listing. We walk you through so that you understand the game you're playing and how to win at it, whatever that means for you. Setting up the perfect listing. We cover everything you need to know to get your property and your listing set up for success. We tell you what you need to do to ensure your property is guest-ready and hassle-free. We show you how to set up your listing so that guests are excited to book your place. Whether you're brand new to hosting or have been at it for several years, we show you how to optimize your listing from every angle. Maximizing hosting returns. You can discover what you need to keep your place booked as much as you want it to be and at the best possible rates. Minimizing hosting hassle. You get plenty of helpful tips and resources that help you make your hosting as enjoyable as possible. Hosting is meant to be fun and exciting, and we show you how to keep it that way for as long as you host. Using the right tools and systems. With the right tools and the right systems in place, you can all but guarantee any hosting nightmare doesn't take place at your listing, maximizing your profits and minimizing your stress levels. So much more. You can discover how to get involved with new opportunities for fun and for income, such as Airbnb experiences. This book is meant to give you everything you need to make your hosting both profitable and enjoyable. Foolish assumptions. If you fall into one of the following categories, then this book is for you. You're an absolute beginner to Airbnb. You've never hosted or even stayed at an Airbnb before, and you don't know where to begin. You started hosting, but you're not really sure if you're making the right hosting decisions or if you're performing as well as you could be. You've been hosting for a while, and everything is going well, but you're starting to get tired, and you need to find a better way to operate. You want hosting to be as fun and enjoyable as it was in the beginning again. You're an experienced host with years of guest stays under your belt, and you have a superhost badge to show for it. You're doing a fantastic job of hosting, and you want to continue to improve and find out how to take your hosting to the next level. You don't have a property that you can list on Airbnb, but you want to host other people's properties, and you're not quite sure where to get started. You're curious about what some of the most successful Airbnb hosts in the world are doing, or about some of the new and exciting features that Airbnb has to offer. You realize that Airbnb currently presents a huge opportunity, and you want to get in on it. Icons used in this book. Throughout this book, you'll notice a number of helpful little icons verbalized. Here's what they mean. Tip. This icon indicates a pro tip that can likely save you a lot of time or make your hosting more successful. We learned these little tips through trial and error so that you don't have to. Warning. We use this icon to highlight anything that, if done improperly, could lead to some headaches down the road. Be sure not to overlook these points because they can save you from potential mistakes. Remember. This icon indicates an important tidbit that you're going to want to remember so that you can make the best decisions and understand the reasoning behind our advice. On the web. As an additional value to our readers, we gathered a collection of useful resources and made them available for download or access online. Where noted, we provide a web URL address to direct you to them. Where to go from here? This book doesn't need to be and isn't meant to be read from beginning to end. If you want to read it that way, then of course you may. However, if you only need specific pieces or solutions, then feel free to jump around and gather what you need to accomplish your goals. You can refer to the cheat sheet at dummies.com for more helpful advice that you can refer whenever you need to. Start with your needs and interests. That being said, oftentimes, as a host, you may not properly identify the source of a specific problem, which makes coming up with the right solution more difficult. If, for example, your property isn't generating the returns that you want it to, you may decide to first look at Part 3 for optimizing your pricing strategy. You may find, however, that improving your listing photos or adding some much-needed amenities is what you actually needed to do in order to increase your performance. If so, check out Part 2. If at first you don't succeed, reassess, revisit, and rework your approach. Having your Airbnb operation go exactly as you want them to go may not necessarily be easy. However, we can assure you that doing what it takes to get there will be very much worthwhile. Part 1. Getting Started with Airbnb. In this part, Understand the big picture view of Airbnb, its place in the sharing economy, and why it's a great opportunity to earn extra income from your unused space. Discover what you need to have and do before hosting so that you can get the best possible start. Ask yourself key questions before becoming a host to understand clearly whether hosting is right for you. Determine if buying or building a property for Airbnb is worth the extra cost and effort involved. Know how to figure your profit potential on Airbnb and determine how much money you can make as a host. Chapter 1. The Lowdown on Airbnb, Just the Basics. In this chapter, understanding what Airbnb is at its core, finding out why people love Airbnb, considering common hosting questions and misconceptions. Airbnb is a home sharing platform founded in 2008 that now offers more listings than all the top 5 hotel brands in the world combined. It started out as 2 guys hosting friends and guests on an air mattress in a San Francisco living room. They didn't know at the time that they were starting a wave that would spread across the world, where people could open their homes and properties to travelers seeking a more personal stay. If you're reading this book, and clearly you are, more than likely you're interested in listing your property on Airbnb to meet interesting new people and make money at the same time. If so, you've come to the right place. Consider this chapter your jumping-off point into the world of Airbnb hosting. Here we dive into the lowdown on Airbnb and share just what you need in order to understand how Airbnb works so you can start hosting. Looking at the big picture. Airbnb is a marketplace to connect people who are looking to stay at someone's property with someone who has said property and is looking to have people stay there. It's a community for both guests and hosts to connect with one another. Airbnb provides the front-end and back-end tools to easily and effectively connect the dots. These sections clarify a few ideas behind Airbnb a bit more, including what a sharing economy is, what short-term rentals are, and what you need to start hosting. The sharing economy. Putting underutilized resources to use. The sharing economy is defined as an economic system in which assets or services are shared between private individuals. This system can be free or require a fee and typically occurs over the Internet. These transactions are effectively consumer to consumer rather than the more traditional business to consumer. It's a whole economy run by consumers rather than big corporations. In other words, individuals connect with one another to share, either for free or for a fee, different assets or services. Individuals typically already have these assets and services at their disposal. Examples of this sharing economy have become widespread today. Uber and its main competitor Lyft are prime examples. People take advantage of an asset they possess, their car, and a service they can offer, the driving of that car. One individual is providing that asset and service, and another individual is benefiting. It exists entirely between 2 private individuals. Uber or Lyft provide the marketplace for those interactions and transactions. Airbnb acts the same in bringing together homeowning individuals, or anyone with a spare space, with individuals who are looking for that asset, an accommodation, and service, a night to stay and someone to host them. Consider 2 strangers trying to find one another in the world and all the circumstances that would need to line up for them to successfully do that. Instead, Airbnb acts as the marketplace that enables these individuals to find and connect with one another. It makes facilitating that transaction quite easy. Understanding what short-term rentals are. Airbnb is an online platform that enables hosts to make their space available to guests who are seeking short-term rental accommodations. Short-term rentals are accommodations that meet the following. Furnished. The space must be furnished with the basics that guests would need and expect when staying overnight somewhere. Guests will need a place to sleep, not just a barren room. Refer to Chapter 5, where we discuss what necessities to include. Transient occupancy. Under most regulations, a short-term rental is defined as a stay that lasts for less than 28 or 30 days. This definition may change slightly depending on the location, but essentially it's any stay that lasts for less than 1 month. In other words, a short-term rental is when guests are staying for a short, fixed time period and for a specific purpose. They're visiting your city and want to stay at a property for a couple of days or weeks to see the city, attend a conference or event, conduct business, or visit family and friends. Paving the way, the original sharing economy. Although Uber and Airbnb were arguably the first companies to popularize the sharing economy, several other companies came before them in the sharing economy space. In 2008, there was Taxi Magic. Taxi Magic was Uber before Uber was Uber. However, where Uber gained widespread success and was adopted nearly worldwide, Taxi Magic was a failure. Many other companies tried to make the sharing economy happen and operated in that space. Back before Uber and Airbnb became successful, the idea of getting into a stranger's car so he could drive you somewhere or staying at a stranger's house was crazy. It was a scary and ridiculous idea. Today, you likely don't think twice about requesting an Uber and getting into a stranger's car. Most people are completely open to booking an Airbnb and staying with a stranger. Uber and Airbnb paved the way and normalized the idea of the sharing economy among the masses. Knowing what you need to host. In order to host on Airbnb, you need the following. A space. The first and most important aspect to hosting is having a space. This space can range from an air mattress in your living room to a treehouse or an entire property. Essentially, it's anywhere someone can sleep that you can post on Airbnb. You need to be able to define your space so people don't come to your mattress expecting a castle. However, you can truly list any spare space on Airbnb. Chapter 5 covers everything you need to know about getting your space set up for Airbnb. Chapter 6 discusses how to word your Airbnb listing so that guests arrive with the right expectations. A listing. Before you can host, you need to create a listing for that space on Airbnb. This listing tells guests what to expect and highlights the space. Chapter 6 gives you tips for making your listing stand out. In addition, your listing sets the rates so people can book the space for the time period they want and for a specific price. Just as important, your listing includes photos of your space. Including photos that capture the essence of your space is important. Check out Chapter 7 for in-depth advice about what you need to do to ensure your photos stand out and get prospective guests' attention. The right tools. Having the right tools makes hosting on Airbnb much easier. In Chapter 10, we discuss several different tools, both hardware and software, that make tasks such as messaging guests, pricing your listing, and checking guests into your space much less time-consuming. The right methods and strategies. You need an actual system that contains different methods and strategies to best perform as a host. With this base knowledge, you continue discovering what hosting entails. Consider learning how to drive. In order to drive, you first need to have a car, but you also need to know how to drive that car. Similarly with Airbnb, if you have a space and a listing, you also need to know how to combine the two and make them work together. In other words, you need to know how to continually operate your listing to the best of your abilities with no issues. Throughout the rest of this book, our goal is to show you those strategies so that you can host successfully without needing to learn through trial and error. Understanding how the pandemic changed Airbnb hosting. The global pandemic of 2020 changed Airbnb hosting in a few notable ways. It changed the way people travel. During the pandemic, the most notable shift was a near total elimination of international travel. With national borders closed in many parts of the world and reluctancy to board crowded airplanes, we saw more people traveling locally than ever before. This led to many markets just outside of major urban centers to experience substantial demand growth, and many markets that relied on international tourism to see the exact opposite. Post-pandemic, we're seeing a new era of remote work, where many travelers are looking to stay for months instead of weeks, given their newfound freedom to work from anywhere. It changed the way people host. Hosts have become much more focused on cleanliness and sanitation, and many hosts who offered up a shared space within their home turned off their listings. This change meant that Airbnb was dominated by whole home listings even more than before. It changed the way Airbnb structured its platform. In light of the changes that Airbnb recognized were taking place in the travel industry, Airbnb restructured their entire platform in some big ways. The platform is more focused than ever on catering to longer-term stays and cool getaways. If you've got a cool or unique space to list, your odds of success are higher now than ever before. Airbnb, then versus now. In the early days of Airbnb, the company hosted guests with air mattresses in apartment living rooms. Today, Airbnb has more than 6 million listings worldwide, ranging from luxury mansions to treehouses and apartment living rooms. The platform gained traction during the recession in 2009, with the company name coming from the idea of an air bed and breakfast, a play on the traditional bed and breakfast by including an air mattress. Founders Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blecharczyk rented out an air mattress set up in their living room for $80 per night. They realized there was a need for affordable accommodations apart from hotels or budget motels. They also found that most people have extra space in their homes that could easily house a guest. It was a need with a clear solution, and both groups stood to gain. The traveling guest would pay an affordable rate for a place that wasn't being utilized, and the host could utilize and capitalize on that spare space while deriving an income from it. Answering common questions that you as a potential host may have. Whether you're curious about the types of guests and how to properly screen, or have a fear of letting a stranger into your home, this section provides answers to your most pressing questions. Many now passionate hosts at one point would have never considered renting out their personal apartments or vacation homes. Oftentimes, after they realized how the Airbnb systems created a safe, enjoyable, and successful experience, they were eager to commit to and later enjoy hosting. As an aspiring host, you may have been wondering about a lot of the answers to these questions. Keep reading to see. Why would I allow strangers into my house? The best reasons to let strangers into your house is that they're willing to pay to stay in your unused space, and you can meet cool people. Generate additional income. Making more money is the main reason most people start hosting. By taking a spare space in your home and offering it to your guests, you can bring in more money. Even better, the additional income you can make is disproportionate to the time you'll spend on hosting responsibilities. You're leveraging a little of your time for tasks such as cleaning or guest communication, but mainly you're leveraging an asset that otherwise is unutilized. In Chapter 4, we show you how to determine your listing's profit potential. Meet interesting people from all around the world. By hosting strangers, you can meet interesting people, many who are from a different background or walk of life. They're coming from a different part of the world and have their own set of experiences. You can share part of your neighborhood and world, offering them tips of what to see and do. You can even build long-lasting relationships. In Chapter 12, we discuss what it means to be a great host, not the least of which is caring about the relationships you establish with each guest. Is it safe to host on Airbnb? There are some common misconceptions about Airbnb, most prominently of which is the nightmare guest. Stories of nightmare guest experiences can be a huge deterrent to hosting guests in your space. However, these stories serve as the exception rather than the rule. How Airbnb almost never got off the ground. When Airbnb began, it didn't immediately experience widespread acceptance because the idea seemed so crazy that nobody thought it would work. The concept of strangers staying in other strangers' homes was weird and scary. The founders didn't have a seamless launch. They were maxing out credit cards by the dozen to keep the idea afloat. At one point, they had completely run out of cash and were desperate to sustain their company. They brainstormed some ideas to use at the 2008 Democratic National Convention to raise some funds for their scrappy startup. They started packaging and selling Obama-O's and Cap'n McCain cereal at the convention. They'd run around to stores buying cereal, repackaging it in their own Obama-O and Cap'n McCain containers, and quickly selling it. The campaign went viral and gained more success than Airbnb at the time. The $30,000 profit sustained them so that they didn't run out of money again before finding success. While pitching Airbnb, the founders were laughed out of the room more than once. Today, it's hard to believe that Airbnb was initially widely criticized and misunderstood. Many people have the idea that if they host on Airbnb, their property will get absolutely trashed. They believe the guests will be awful, and there's a huge risk of parties where people will burn your house to the ground. However, that's the exception and an anomaly. Recently, Airbnb welcomed its 500 millionth guest. It's understandable that among half of 1 billion guests, there would be some stays that didn't go as planned. Yet, when you look at the percentage of terrible stays, they make up the tiniest of amounts. Barely a fraction of 1% of all stays result in any kind of major issue or damage, far from the norm. And you can prevent these rare incidents from happening. Airbnb has developed several safety features to ensure that hosting is safe and secure. Here are some of these features you can take. Hosts and guests never exchange money. All money is exchanged directly through the platform. Because Airbnb acts as an intermediary, there's no way to get scammed as either a guest or a host. Hosts can see prospective guests' profiles and require that guests show a government-issued photo ID. A government-issued photo ID can include a passport or a driver's license. Guests also can offer other verifications, such as a personal email address, a work email address, a phone number, a Facebook account, and a photo. You can reach out to guests who make reservations and ask questions such as who they are and why they're staying in your area. If guests haven't provided these verifications, you can ask them to do so, making it safer depending on your level of comfort. Hosts can set their own booking preferences. As a host, you can set your own pricing and minimum stay requirements so that you attract the right types of guests into your space. We discuss this more in Chapter 8. Hosts can make their own rules. As a host, you can create house rules that make it clear to guests what is and isn't allowed. In addition, you can set your own security deposit so that guests have a financial stake in following the rules. We cover house rules and security deposit specifics in Chapter 6. Is my property suited for Airbnb? In general, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. You can list almost any property on Airbnb. Here are 2 considerations for listing your property on Airbnb. An accurate listing. You need to make sure you're listing your space accurately on Airbnb.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?